Good day everyone, I am Abigail Grutas from Group 5 and
We'll be discussing about artists and artisans, and by the end of this lesson, you should be able to first outline the history of the emergence of artists and artisan. Second, recognize and critically discuss the function of state sponsorship in the field of art and culture through the National Artist Award and Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan. Third, identify and define the different individuals and groups who take on varied role in the world of art and culture. Lastly, to classify the practices of artists in terms of form, medium, and technique. Let's proceed to our first reporter, Ms. Katrina De Guia.
What are the difference between artists and artisans? An artist is dedicated only to the creative side, making visually pleasing work only for the enjoyment and appreciation of the viewer, but with no functional value. An artist is someone who creates works of art for aesthetic and conceptual purposes. They often have a unique vision or perspective that they want to express through their art. Artists may work in a wide range of media, including painting, drawing, printmaking, photography, and digital media. An artisan is essentially a manual worker who makes items with his or her hands, and who through skills, experience, and talent can create things of great beauty as well as being functional. On the other hand, an artisan is someone who creates functional objects with a high degree of skills and craftsmanship. Artisans may work in a variety of materials, including wood, metal, ceramics, textiles, and glass. Their primary goal is to create objects that are not only beautiful but useful. Artisans often work in a small-scale production, creating handmade items that are unique and personalized. Who is an artist? An artist is a person who performs any of the creative arts. For example, the Art Spirit 1923 and Robert Henry. Who is an artisan? An artisan is a skilled who makes things by hand. For example, weaving, making sculptures, clay molding, and etc. Both artists and artisans can use their hands to make things. Both can be professionals or amateurs. The idea is, if you make something that is useful, for example, a vase or a house, then you're an artisan. But if you make something that's just for art's sake and beautifully useless, then you're an artist.
According to Peter Drucker's a seminal book, Post-Capitalist Society in 1993, said that knowledge is the most important research and divisive factor in production, more so than capital, land, or labor. It argues that in the modern capitalist society, the classes are not divided by capitalists and proletarians, but by those who possess knowledge and creativity, which are driving forces of the 21st century economy. In essence, this statement emphasizes the critical role of knowledge and innovation in modern economic production and highlights the importance of creative thinking, problem-solving skills in achieving success in today's world. Artists have a long story that can be traced back to the early days of human civilization. The first episode of the video series New Ways of Seeing, produced by the New York Times, Brand Studio, and Tiffany, features art critic results who emphasizes the significance of the first artists who invented a way to represent the three-dimensional world in two dimensions and attach value to their own ideas. According to Salz, this invention was a major milestone in human civilization, and all of the history of art was evolved from this innovation. The invention of representing the three-dimensional world in two dimensions and attaching value to ideas by the first artist refers to the drawing and paintings of animals, hunting scenes, and symbolic figures created during the Stone Age. These images are thought to be some of the earliest examples of human artistic expressions and demonstrate the early human desire to capture and convey the world around them through visual means. Works of art from diverse cultures have been overlooked or undervalued by the highly systematized Western art world. Examples of such art can be found in various countries including France, Spain, Namibia, Australia, and Argentina. However, there is growing recognition of value and complexity of non-Western artistic traditions, and efforts are being made to reevaluate the canon of Western art history to include previously marginalized artists and movements. Church of the Most Holy Trinity in Laway, Bohol is example of Spanish colonial architecture in the Philippines. The church was built in 1822 and is known for its drum oil ceiling paintings which depict biblical scenes. Drum oil is a technique in painting that creates the illusion of three-dimensional objects or space on two-dimensional surface. It is unfortunate that the church was heavily damaged during the earthquake that hit in Bohol in 2013. However, efforts have been made to restore and preserve the church, and it's been recognized as a National Historical Landmark by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. The restoration of the church is testament to the importance of preserving cultural heritage and historical landmarks for future generations to appreciate and learn from.
I am Angelo Montañez, and my report is the Artisan and the Guilds. Or have you ever wondered why some examples of artistic and creative production have survived to this day? As one reason why some examples of artistic and creative production have survived to this day is that they have been recognized as significant cultural artifacts and have been internationally preserved and passed down from generation to generation. For example, many ancient works of art, such as the cave paintings of Laxwax or the Pyramid of Giza, were preserved because they were considered sacred or important to the culture that created them. An example of this would be the Cologne Cathedral in Germany. It is but one of the many examples of early Gothic architecture. The account was the master mason Gerhard Reil started the project in 1248 but was only completed roughly 600 years later, claiming the record was one of the longest construction projects to date. This is the guild nature under the four crown saints. So this sculpture is not widely known, but it represents the devotion that results from man's love of God. This particular work shows four men who knew what was at stake when they chose to obey God rather than their emperor, but remained bold and true to what they knew. Albrecht Dürer was a German painter, printmaker, and theorist of the Renaissance period. He was born in Nuremberg, Germany, and grew up in a family of artists. Dürer is known for his highly dated and realistic paintings and engravings. He was a master of perspective, human autonomy, and proportion, and his work often featured religious themes or classical reference. Some of his famous works include Melancholia, The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and Adam and Eve. Dürer was also a prolific printmaker and produced many woodcuts and engravings. His skill in this medium helped to popularize printmaking as an art of form, and his prints are still highly regarded today. In addition to his artistic endeavors, Dürer was also a writer and published several treatises on topics such as geometry and proportion. He was a key figure in the Northern Renaissance, and his work had a significant influence on the development of art in Europe.
Hi, my name is Ijus Cala Gonzalez, reporter of Artist and his studio. Moving back to the Europe, the big shift that propelled the evolution of the pivotal role of the artist in the arts started during the Middle Age up to the Renaissance period. Before the Renaissance period, artwork were left unsigned. During the Middle Age and before the Renaissance, artworks were typically created by anonymous artisans who were commissioned by wealthy patrons. However, with the rise of the Renaissance, there was a shift toward individualism, and the artist became seen as a creative genius capable of producing work that were not just technically skilled but also expressive of their personal vision and creativity. This led our artists beginning to sign their works and to gain or recognized for their individual contribution to the arts, which in turn helped to elevate the status of the artist in society. Artist studio have been a place of interest for the public. It is
interesting to see and learn where creativity manifests itself, especially since an artist studio and is an extension of the artist himself. The studio model dates back from the Renaissance. This was especially true with artists who explored of painting techniques whose long process can be described by cycle of mixing, layering, and drying of paint. Criticism and analysis were highlighted as an integral aspect of art engagement. Therefore, the display of the artworks through official art salon was sought for to be included, and the exhibition was deemed an honor to, especially since it did not take a while before it was considered an arbiter of standard and taste. The public was being fascinated by artist studio. They offer insight into where creativity happens and how artists work. The idea of the artist studio date back to Renaissance, particularly for painters who use complex techniques involving multiple layers of paint. Criticism and analysis were important aspects of art exhibiting of official salon was seen as an honor and a way to establish standard and taste. A compendium of events released the artists from the limitation that affected the way in which they produce their works. More painters enjoy painting on their own behalf, creating works they wanted to create during the later part of the 1800. Artists began to question the merits of stringent artistic training and education, but it was during the 1900 that art was truly liberated from the tradition of the past. Perhaps it was then that artists found freedom to articulate their distinct aesthetic way of creative production. Storage manager, studio assistant, art fair director, artist gallery director, museum director. The passage describes how to realize of a compendium of events allowed artists to break free from the limitation that had previously affected their works. As a result, painters began to create works that reflected their own artistic vision rather than conforming to tradition standard. This shift began in the late 1800 and continued into the 1900 when artists were able to question traditional artistic training and education and explore new modes of expression. The passage is not directly related to the job titles mentioned at the end, which include a storage manager or studio assistant, art fair director, art gallery director, and museum director.
Let's proceed to other players in the world of art. I will be giving the 5 major players in the world of art, but as you can see in the figure, there's a lot to mention. Number 1. Artist. Artist and artisan are persons having superior skill or ability, or who are capable of producing superior work. An artist is a person engaged in some type of fine art. An artisan is engaged in a craft or applied art. Number 2, dealer. An art dealer handles the advertising, public relations, and the mounting of exhibitions for an artist in exchange for a commission at the sale of the work. Number 3, curators. Curators are responsible for the conceptual development, design, layout, and the execution of an art show. Art curators are also research artists and write catalog essays. 4. Art critics. They analyze, evaluate, and interpret the aesthetic value and significance of artwork that is displayed at galleries, museum exhibitions, private or public showings. Critics also comment and pass judgment on the technical factors, theme, and artistic expression of the art being reviewed. Number 5. Collectors. Prominent collectors are very influential and can create recognition of an unknown artist by purchasing his work. In fact, the majority of artworks housed in museums and galleries are donated by collectors.
Production process. Production is at the heart of making art. Artists and theorists have long acknowledged the importance as both an artistic action and idea to be explored. Production is a word with many meanings. It can refer to the making of something or a final product. Like a theatrical performance, it can be the process of bringing a song or musical work to life, or honing that work to perfection. Production might conjure images of factory production lines, or the theories of Karl Marx. Production is labor, capital, and invincible groundwork of modern society, and it can be as simply as making a clay pot with your hands. Production is at once mechanical and biological think of reproduction, and ultimately human. There are three stages involved in art production. First is the pre-production, or conception. It is the process of learning some of the elements involved in a film, television show, play, or the other performance, as distinct from production and post-production. Pre-production ends when the planning ends and the content starts being produced. Second is the production. It can refer to the making of something or to a final product like a theatrical performance. It can be the process of bringing a song or musical work to life. Third is post-production. It is the part of the process of filmmaking, video production, audio production, and photography. Post-production includes all stages of production occurring after principal photography or recording individual program segments.
What is the medium? The medium is the materials or means which the artist uses to objectify one's feeling or thoughts. So, the medium is a very important because the nature of the medium can determine on how the artist can manipulate the artwork or how can a certain resources can turn into an artwork and express through it. And each medium has inherent limitation as well as potential. Bawat medium na gagamitin, meron lamang itong limits and meron lamang itong potential. Halimbawa, kung tayo ay gagamit ng acrylic paint, hindi ito kamukha ng watercolor, hindi rin ito kamukha ng oil pastel. Magkakaiba ito ng limitasyon and even potential. Each medium has an own range of character which determine the particular appearance of the finished product. What is technique? Technique is an artist's knowledge of his medium and his skills in making it achieve what he wants to. Artists differ in technique even though they may be using the same medium. So there are sometimes naman na iisa ang medium nila but there are different way kung paano nila ito gamitin. Different types of medium. First, concrete works. The object physically manifests themselves for a prolonged or lasting period. Example of concrete works, painting and sculpture. Second, ephemeral works. On another hand, it is a durational. Example, tracks, films, performance.
Anacleans, the evolving role of the exhibition and its impact on the art and culture 2012. Exhibition act as the catalyst of art and ideas to the public. They represent a way of displaying and contextualizing art that make it relevant and accessible to contemporary audiences. The art exhibition, by its nature, holds a mirror up to society, reflecting its interests and concerns while at the same time challenging its ideologies and preconceptions. Keeping art relevant to society and to a diverse audience at any given point in history is one of the main goals of the art exhibition, and one of the reasons it is so important to the history of art. Paul Marincolas. What makes a great exhibition? 2006. Exhibitions are strategically located at the nexus where artists, their work, and the art institution and many different publics intersect. Exhibitions create an opportunity in which the different roles in the art world get to meet, interact, and even enter into discussion. Exhibitions are one of the most common platforms to engage with the art and to display art. Exhibition may be long-term or permanent hangs, or it may temporary or periodically changing. An exhibition can be a solo exhibition or may be included in a two-person showing or even a group exhibition. There are some instances when an artwork is a standalone or site-specific work that renders its display under slightly different structure or format. Other opportunities for art engagement transpire in the classroom, studio, visits, lectures, workshop, and other larger showing for not only artworks but also personalities can flex their influence and authority. Publications are also a good way to introduce the artwork and open it up for appreciation, critique, and analysis.
These artists' practice may fall under the following categories: folk, architecture, maritime, transport, weaving, carving, performing arts, literature, graphic and plastic arts, ornament, textile, or fiber art, pottery, and other artistic expressions of traditional culture, of art, and to produce the consent of the entire society in the legitimacy of the Artworks Authority to do so, Irving 2013. The last aspect is very important because this implies that the artwork does not only rely on ideas, sentiments, and aesthetic values but also on skills that are performalized, stratified, and more importantly, monetized. Roles may be broken down to working boards, director and assist director, managing curators, and management and operation of museum galleries and other art spaces. The terrain where art is distributed is a global network comprised of individual groups and institutions such as school museums, galleries, art space, auction house, and other commercial market platform and professions. The conferment of the Order of National Artists is the highest national recognition given to Filipino individuals who have made significant contribution to the development of Philippines art, namely music, dance, theater, visual arts, literature, film, broadcast art, and architecture and allied arts. The other is jointly administered by the National Commission of Culture and the Arts, or NCCA, and the Cultural Center of the Philippines, CCP, and conferred by the President of the Philippines upon recommendation by both institutions, NCCA 2015. Under the jurisdiction of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, NCCA, the NCCA 2015, through the Gawad sa Manlilikanong Bayan Committee and an ad hoc panel of experts, conducts the research for the finest tradition artists of the land, adopts a program that will ensure the transfer of their skills to others, and undertakes measures to promote a genuine appreciation of and still pride among our people about the genius of the Manlilikanong Bayan. It was first conferred to three outstanding artists in music and poetry back in 1993. Some of the honors and privileges that a National Artist Awardee receives are the following: the rank and title as proclaimed by the President of the Philippines, a medallion or insignia, and a citation that will be read during the conferment, cash awards, and a host of benefits, monthly life pension, medical and hospitalization benefits, life insurance coverage, a state funeral and burial at the libingan ng mga bayani, or hero cemetery, and the last, a place of honor or design area during national state function along with recognition or acknowledged at cultural events. The recipients of the Gamaba are sought under the qualification of a Manlilikanong Bayan who is a citizen engaged in a traditional art uniquely Filipino whose distinctive skills have reached such a high level of technical and artistic excellence and have been passed on to and widely practiced by the present generation in her community with the same degree to technical and artistic competence. NCCA 2015. These artist practice may fall under the following categories: folk, architecture, maritime, transport, weaving, carving, performing arts, literature, graphic and plastic arts, and ornament, textile or fiber art, pottery, and other artistic expression of traditional culture.
The evolution of the artist is one of the most fascinating historical events in human affairs. He used the power of creativity and imagination to try to make sense of the world around him from the banalities of the works he produced to help and inform the everyday. He got caught up in the thick of prevailing and shifting ideologies. Artists are subjects to high expectations and are held to a high standard. As Woodrow Wilson, 1913, relates, "You are not here merely to make a living, you are here in order to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision, with a finer spirit of hope and achievements. You are here to enrich the world, and you impoverish yourself if you forget that errand." Ang isa sa mga pinakakaakit-akit na makasaysayang pag-unlad sa mga gawain ng tao ay ang pag-unlad ng artist. Siya ay nahuli sa kapal ng nangingibabaw at palipat-lipat na mga ideolohiya at ginamit ang kapangyarihan ng pagkamalikhain at imahinasyon sa pagsisikap na maunawaan ang mundo sa paligid niya. Mula sa mga pagbabawal ng mga gawa na nilikha niya upang tumulong at magbigay ng kaalaman sa araw-araw.
That's all for our report. Thank you for listening and watching.